gang, it's Maria here from goalietrainingpro.com, and I am joined on the Zoom with my friend, goalie coach Michael Lawrence, who you guys, if you follow him on the Instagram. He is a Wizard ML, but he is the goalie coach for HC Lugano. And has had a really successful track record over there and has actually helped develop some of the goalies that we're seeing play in the NHL right now. So he'll walk you through some of that. But Michael and I have known each other for years and years. And yeah, like somehow, I don't know, through the magic of the Facebook probably at the time or something, you're like, hey, do you want to come and work at my camp? And I was like, sure. So, I ripped up to Oshawa and worked your camp. Like that was probably like eight years ago, it feels like. But so anyway, we were chatting a couple of weeks ago, and so we get geeking out on things, right? So I'm talking about neutral pelvis, and I'll stand up to sort of show you what I'm talking about, and then Michael will take over and show us examples on the ice. But I was talking about neutral pelvis that I'm always talking about, but how I think I've been using the wrong verbiage. So, because neutral pelvis, is, some people interpret it to mean like if my pelvis was a bowl, I wouldn't spill any water out of it, so that it always remains basically horizontal to the floor. So then as soon as I go into a ready stance, they're saying, well, now it's not neutral. So you have to round your back, to sort of keep it neutral in that position, which then, you can even see like, okay, that doesn't look right. Right. And it puts strain on your back and changes the length tension relationship with some really important muscle groups. So I'm saying, well, maybe, I should have said sort of neutral relative to the pelvis, and not that we have to be stiff and robotic about it, but as sort of a starting point. So that then Michael saw that and was like, that's kind of bang on what I'm trying to teach goalies on the ice, because what he sees, and we had to sort of go around in circles a couple times because we talk different languages, right? But he's saying that the goalies they get almost too far forward, or what, they use their quads too much. So what he's describing is there's two different ways we can get into stance. One is I can get into stance driving my knees forward in an attempt to stay like big in my torso, right? So people think that this is not tall in my torso, or is not big in my torso. So they think, oh, I have to stay really upright. Well, in order to stay upright, you have to drive your knees forward. And this isn't like like your knees going over your toes thing. Like we're over that. Your knees can go over your toes. But this just isn't an efficient position. And if you stand in this position for any amount of time, you will feel your quads. Like my quads are on fire. So what I'm talking about in the neutral pelvis, and what Coach Michael's talking about, is like, if we kind of sit our hips back, get our ears, so our ears go through our knees, go through the ball of our foot, then we're in a balanced position and we still have a large chest, relative to the puck. And I'm in a neutral pelvis relative to my spine. So I have lots of space in my hips to move where I need to move. So that kind of is where we got to. And then I said, hey, like, I think I'd like us to chat about this, because Michael was showing me examples on the ice. So here we are today, from Lugano to London, and we're going to chat a little bit about how what started as an off-ice conversation went to an on-ice conversation. I'm not the person to talk about on ice, but I really like the stuff that Michael was showing me. So he's going to help us understand it even better from a goalieing perspective, right?
Yeah. So thanks for having me. It's funny because I saw you were doing a piece online, and those were some, things you were touching on, and that's a very big component to. It's crazy, like what we do every day, and just from a school's perspective, from the goalie school, when kids come to pro goaltending, I'm always amazed of how many kids you see with back lines like this, and what they don't realize is, yeah, your quads are on fire, which you illustrated, but the other thing too is the amount of lanes that you're creating through your body. You're just playing the hard way, because all your weight transfer is back and you're in a sitting motion basically. But the other thing is you have to make saves. Everything's got to be a save, with your hands, and you have pretty much zero frame because of it. So, when I heard you talking online, with what you were doing, I was like, man, that's so important, to have those kind of focuses away from the ice, and in the gym, and so that way it's continuous, and putting in the time, not just on the ice, because I'm sure if you go into the gym and then you start using different biomechanics, yeah, you're going to run into issues, right? So I was really glad to hear that you were covering those things, and always great to connect with you. So I was excited about this as well.
Yeah, and things have changed since the 8 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever that I worked at your pro goaltending camp. I always just like I love learning from goalie coaches, and and that always inspires me too. To okay, like so how can we reinforce that off the ice, because it's habits, and habits translate into motor patterns. Habits translate into structure, and I mean connective, like muscle, connective tissue, body structure, and into function. So can you walk me through and walk us through sort of your ideas of how you look at stance on the ice, and just
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. So for me, like my biggest takeaway when we start working with a new player, or if there's a new professional project that I'm working on with a team I'm with, I'm always looking at biomechanically, how can I help this athlete relieve strain inside of their functions? So their stance, the way they move, whether it's a glove positioning thing, whether it's what we're now talking about with taking away strain from your quads, taking away strain. So I want to limit those things as much as possible, obviously. And then any tension is bad. So if you have tension inside of your stance, if you have tension inside of, whether it's a preset, whether it's how you're beating the play, whatever it is, it should be revised. And the thing that I just drives me bananas sometimes is I've worked with a lot of different guys in the KHL, in the Swiss League, NHL, AHL guys back home through the school. You need to look at it. You need to really think, okay, is this a problem? Are there strains? Are there tension? Because I've had guys who are 30 years old and who have looked at these issues to try and relieve these biomechanics. Jeff Glass, this is like after Spengler Cup, flew from Calgary. So we did the Spengler Cup together, and that summer he flew. He was playing in Minsk in the cage, and he flew to see me in all places, Oshawa, Ontario. And
It's beautiful any time of year. Don't believe what they
beautiful,
say.
beautiful countryside, absolutely. So, anyways, Jeff spent a week, and he didn't. I felt bad, but he didn't see a puck the entire week, because all we did was video, and just literally, he was in a squat a lot of times, and he was locking, and he had lanes through his body. And he came in and just kind of used me as a specialist, so to speak, on the area which we were trying to fix, and he really became conscious of it. And then that year, like it really helped him mobility wise. It helped him just with the speed of the game, and then he went to Chicago, and so if people at that age can make changes, don't tell me that little Timmy and little Mickey can't make these changes, right? It's really just, are you comfortable with change, right? And change with purpose. Like I don't want to just change a guy to change a guy. I want to make you faster. I want to make you bigger, right? And this is all part of it for sure.
Yeah,
So
I like that. I just like one of the things I like about your approach, and you know, you were an early guy using video. Like you used a lot of video at that camp, and I really enjoyed. That's one of the things I most enjoyed is sitting in on those video sessions and just hearing you talk through with the goalies. But you know, it's not like, okay, I'm going to take you and make you a Michael Lawrence goalie because this is how my goalies are successful. You know, it's
right.
like there are concepts there, but it's like, yeah, it's like what, you know, it's the same way I approach training. It's like, what do you need the most? You know, what's the most important, simplest thing we can do that's going to
Yeah.
make you more effective? Not what's sort of the biggest change we can make so I can stamp you that, oh,
Yeah, no, the cool thing about about the development program with the school is that we have guys for 2 weeks, and we've had a lot of NHL picks who have come up through our programs, and we have a tremendous staff like Kev and Dan Stewart, and I mean we got awesome people. And the great thing about it is at the end of each day, we are literally going through on the board each guy,
mhm.
and, and we're trying to fix because we have so much time with them as opposed to it's just like 1 week or whatever. The development program is meant as a main burn so that you'll get and implement one or two things tops inside of your. And if we're working with little Timmy, well, little Timmy needs this, you know what I mean? And every day we're going through the list between all the instructors of that one or two areas maximum inside of his game that we're trying to add. That's how changes start. That's how things happen. Do you know what I mean? And then the information, and I think too is the education that the player is going to be able to get regardless of age. They're going to have a really good sense of what it is, which will make them, whether it's bigger, more efficient in speed, whatever it is. And if you focus on those one or two things, so we're pretty fortunate in that case for
Yeah.
sure.
Do you want to fire up your video machine and then, yeah, and sort of walk us through some on ice examples?
Yeah. To cue it up here, this is Elvis Merzlikins. He's home, which is in Lugano, Switzerland. He's probably going to leave soon to get back home and do all the quarantining in Columbus. But he's done some skates, and this time of the year he's really just trying we're really trying to just focus on little details like biomechanics in his stance and things that make him more efficient with speed, and obviously to relieve a lot of strain, the most strain as possible. So I'm just going to take you guys through some clips, and we'll get more into detail of kind of what I'm talking about here. So, anyways, okay. So we're using a med ball for a reason. We're not just holding a ball to hold a ball.
And it's not like a 50-pound med ball because this guy's in the NHL. We're going to grab the heaviest med ball we can find.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. It's challenging, but Elvis will contest to that. But ultimately, it's engaging your core, and it's creating the good muscle memory, and it's really challenging your biomechanics to be efficient and do the proper things. And
Yeah. So,
yeah,
I just like, because this is important. Like the med ball is an amplifier,
yes,
so it's an amplifier of core or torso activation. It's an amplifier of inefficiencies. If his shoulders are moving this way and the med ball is going to be left behind, and it amplifies that energy leak in the system. I wanted to highlight that too, because some people think, well, it's resistance, and well, yes, but it's to be used as an amplifier.
yes, 100%. And that's why I'm such a big believer in it. And then the other thing too is, Elvis has come a long way with his stance, the way he holds himself. He used to sit, and kind of this exact thing that you were talking about earlier, where He was in a sitting stance, a very, very wide stance, and he had lanes all through his body. So he always had to make saves with his hands. So save selections with his hands, and it was extremely challenging even for a guy at his skill. So when I came on in my first year with him, which was 3 years ago, we tried to change slowly the biomechanics of his stance. And then now obviously this is kind of where we are today, but it's continuous work. Like it doesn't really end. You know what I mean? This is stuff that you need to spend the time on it. It's worth the time. Again, it's just continuous work. So here he is. You can see in his stance that from his neckline and his shoulders, as you go through here, you can see everything kind of drives into the knee and then into the balls of the feet. And that's where his weight transfer is. When I see guys drifting, so whether it's forwards or backwards, it's because you've got weight transfer coming through and you're sitting, and all your weight is really ultimately on your heels. Right. So that's a big thing of being set for shots, beating passes, because you're going to have better east-west setup for sure. And you're going to have better blades at the end of the day. Here, the hip that we're talking about it's out. You're not getting that strain, okay, from that sitting motion because of the hips and the way they're placed. And then overall, because of this line on his back, you're bigger on the puck ultimately. So for me, these are very important biomechanics. And ultimately, again, there's no strain here. It's down to an extreme minimum. And it is making you bigger on the puck, and your east-west movement is far superior than it was before. So I'll let this go. Okay, so why am I making them pose? I'm making them pose because, and this is for the goalie coaches that are, or even coaches that are watching, I'm making them pose because it's all about feel. A big thing for Elvis was he needed to feel the picture poses for him to make progressions over his time of working together and correcting certain areas. So I think it's a very good teaching tool for coaches listening and for goalies. So posing is very important. You get a feel, you understand exactly where you want your hips, you understand where you want your frame to be. And overall, you're understanding what the weight transfer feeling is that you're trying to obtain. So there's a good shot again. After this, I'm going to let things just kind of go. But there you can see without any drawings, his weight transfer, how easier it is for him to get set and static because of that weight distribution.
Good weight. There you go, good hold. Good job. Better. Good neckline. There you go.
I just want to make just a point, is that I want them to hold, okay, so that they feel that weight distribution and they really gain sense of it. But the other thing too is that the biggest thing for me of why I want that line, that straight line through, neckline, shoulders, down to your knees, down into the balls of your feet, is because when you're in that sitting motion, it's almost like you have to do a forward motion and then down. And that's a delayed reaction, right? So it's just not efficient. But you can see when he goes down, because of his biomechanics inside of his stance right now, he's going down on a straight. And that's why I'm making him hold that ball for that extra second, is because it's just about feel, and it's just also about strength.
So
Yeah.
when what cues do you use when he's in like sort of that ready stance going into the butterfly? So what cues do you use to help him get that, you know, that quick, efficient release? Everyone watching this sees how quiet his upper body and head are. You know, there's nothing going on there. It's all happening from his hips down. What cues do you use? That's the first question. The second question I'm going to ask is, you know, a lot of goalies like, well, I need to be stronger because when I go in my butterfly, I sit my bum back. Well, I don't. Most of us aren't too weak to, you know, land in a good sort of taller hip position, but it's more a motor program. And so, do you have any cues that you use to work on for that, or is that something you're even interested in?
For sure. So I'll start with number 2 here. Okay, I'll buy number 2. So what the reason why, again, thanks. I want him to pose when he goes down inside of his butterfly here, is because ultimately it gets you away from what I call soaking. I think everybody has a different term for it, but you kind of talked about it, how you know your butt kind of sinks, and right. But the reality is that it's, if you have better biomechanics, and they will come from once you lose the ball and you're just making saves, your hips are going to be in a bit of a taller place. Your frame is going to be in a taller place, all those things, right? But the other thing is that you also have access to your edges, east, west, if you need to make a secondary slide. So, you know, those are really key things in this pose, and why he's so adamant about, you know, just doing holds. The other thing is, as far as, you know, cues and whatnot, I often, it's more than anything else is we're constantly just showing video on the ice. Cues is tough. You can go over it, and then hopefully the goalie can kind of reframe what they're doing, but they really need to see it, you know, especially when you're working biomechanics like this. They really need to see if there's soak lines, you know what I mean, where they're sitting, and if there's strain, because sometimes you might not really even feel it just because you're so used to it, you know.
Oh,
and
yeah. Huge.
Yeah.
Like it, when you see on video, it's like, I did not think I was doing that at all.
Right. So those are really like just important things for me, and the way we try and find progression through these biomechanic issues.
Yeah.
Keep rolling here.
Good line. Good line. Good. Good. That's it.
Okay. So again, you can see the biomechanic lines inside of his stance. And the reason why I'm making him do the long sides here is because when he pivots, so he's working on a deep side rotation and pivot. But when he gets their blade on post, and it's kind of a foundation blue paint instinct that you want, that's great. But at the same time, he's really making that long side slide, and he's focusing on not soaking, where that's where you obviously went. So that's a big reason why we do these long side movements on their feet, but also long side movements as a slide.
Good. Nice and tall. One more. Good hold, Elvis. Good hold. That's it. There you go. One more, one more. Good.
Okay. So another point I just wanted to bring up and just like, you know, geeking out with weight transfer here. For me, this is really important that your weight distribution, which is the center line, is through the center of your body. And the reason why you're seeing Elvis pose, pose, pose on every single shuffle is because that's what we're really adamant about, is that you're gaining that sense of weight transfer each time. I can't tell you how many times I see goalies, you know, especially younger kids, where they're doing shuffling, but they're shuffling on one quad or one leg, you know what I mean? And all their weight is on one area, and their top here is not set and square,
Yeah.
okay? And bowl like on the puck, right? So so for me, it's like these drills are meant to challenge that feeling, understanding that feeling, so that when the, you know, the 5-pound ball or whatever is gone, that, you know, life feels just that much better, and you're able to do it with just so much better of speed and whatnot. So these are also just, you know, things from a different end of the spectrum here, but you know, being square, getting your even weight in your distribution is so important, because ultimately it allows you to move east west with maximum blade. Okay, his blades are always set, always square on these plays, and it's because he wants to be able to move east west depending on what happens in the play. And if you're only transferring over, you're doing your shuffling on one leg, and sometimes guys do it because they're late in a period, they're getting tired, there's fatigue, etc. Well, yeah, those things add up, you know, and you're only really able to go one way. If all my transfers in my left, I can only push to my right. If all my transfers in my right, I can really only transfer to my left, you know, on a press. So those things are just like so valuable to me when you're doing this stuff. So I just wanted to, again, talk to the coaches and goalies watching, you know, do this properly, because you will see the riches from it.
Let me just,
Yep.
I just want to clarify, you don't have to go back in the video, but I just want to clarify one thing.
Sure.
So what you're saying basically is like, when you're doing your shuffles or whatever, it's almost like you're not going to do that exaggerated, what you call pose, you know, but it's like every single time you want to microscopically like reset into that balanced position. So, you know, obviously if I'm shuffling to my left, I'm going to be, you know, my main propulsion is going to come from my right skate, but in between every time I'm back in that center balanced position. Is that, am I reading that right, or am I off base?
Yes, and let's watch it again, just so that we're clear. Okay, let's get this right. So when he's making his shuffling, he's trying to get center weight each time through his blade.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and like I love this too, and I love that you highlighted the shoulders, because this is a huge issue that I see every single time I step into a rink at all levels, and it's something we can really train off ice is that, yeah, like you're going to have guys shuffling this way and their shoulders are going that way. And nobody's fixing it or correcting it. And everyone's talking about core stability, and but it's like, let's not do this, because it's exactly what you're saying. I'm going to get there and I'm not balanced. So if I have to go back this way, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, and all these stance biomechanics that we're speaking about here, this has so much correlation also to your frame. And that's a whole other discussion, guys. But these are like the opening pieces. Do you know what I mean? And because the levels of your hands, like the guys that for me were like, they're kind of dream modes are Carey Price, the way he is with his hands, they're always even. And he just understands. I don't know if he was just aware of it, or you know what I mean? He probably was, right? But I feel like it's always on a level, and that allows his shoulders always to be on a square level as well. Anderson in Toronto, tremendous job from Stevie Briere. Same thing, like, making his hands on a level, and that's a big man. You know what I mean? So, and they get even bigger because of those frame tactics. So it's those things are so important. So don't want to get off topic here, but I'll do the last one here. So this is just a little note for coaches. If you want to be a bit of a jerk and really challenge their biomechanics, fatigue is a good thing. Okay. So doing drills like this, you're going to see how this is going to get a bit gassed here. And this is at the end. I want your brain to get tired. I want your system to get tired, because we're trying to force some fail here inside of your biomechanics. And the only way to take real transition and steps is that there's got to be fatigue factors as well. Also, this is at the end of practice, taking note that guys are just shooting pucks at our practice, and they're working on little things right now after, an hour skate. So he's already tired, right? I want your brain to fail here, but I really want it to be challenged, and Elvis handles it really, really well. So I'm going to let it go. You'll see the drill, you'll see the idea, but try and create fatigue to master these biomechanic fields.
That's it. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Like, and I like that too. Like it's just a different type of battle drill. And it's yeah, there's going to be some failure. The drill is simple enough that he can think what he needs to do and focus on that and try to do it as well as he can. And then too, like, once he's just failing like completely, it's like, okay, now we're not being productive. It's like, yeah, we're going to battle and there's going to be some failure and you're going to try to recover from that, because that's when you need it. But it's and I don't, you said like, if you kind of want to be a jerk, that's not being a jerk. That's being strategic. That's stamina training with that mental element. Being a jerk is just like, I want to make this person really, really tired, because then, when they get off the ice, they'll say, oh, that was so hard. My coach was so buff, So I really like that progression. And I like your point that it's at the end, and you're not trying to teach technique that way. It's just like teaching speed. We don't teach speed under fatigue. We don't teach fine-tuning technique under fatigue, but we teach, competence under fatigue.
Yeah, competence and trying to get past the fails, I guess, is a part the reason to some of my madness, I guess. But you know,
As
you
a
really,
coach too, it probably highlights where their level of like conscious competence and subconscious competence is. So probably a drill where they are consciously competent, so if they're concentrating, they can do it right. That's going to fall apart way faster once there's fatigue. If it's a drill that they're more subconsciously competent, or that's more automatic to them, it's going to hold together more under fatigue. So again, it's sort of a magnifier on, okay, where are the holes, I suppose. Do you ever look at it that way?
yeah, for sure. And you'd be amazed of, in those sections of training where you're just going to see bad habits come back into play, right? So I think those are but as a coach, that's where you see, okay, this is where we really are. And I think that's why there's so much value towards that. I was able to go to a morning skate in Ottawa one time, and I ran into Rolly Melanson, and at the time he was working with Ken Appleby, who was up with the big club. And Rolly said, yeah, I really like him, because it doesn't seem like whatever I throw at him, I can't break him, and that's kind of like, I would imagine kind of like some of that theory is, he's, a big part of what he does and believes is, how are you going to react when there's a ton of strain, fatigue, through your body and through your mind. So, yeah.
This has been awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate it. And I just enjoy it. It's just so fun to chat with you and pick your brain. And, we all see goaltending through these lenses of our experiences and our background. And so I always love to chance to sort of look through your lenses, and I always learn new stuff. So thank you so much for taking the time to help us all out and pick up some little tidbits.
Love geeking out with you.
Yeah, we'll do it again. We'll do it again soon. And when we can get traveling again, I'm gonna get over there to Italy and go and sit and have a coffee with you, like I see on your Instagrams. I'm just like, I'm quite filled with envy when I see them. So when we can travel again, I'll get on a plane and come over there and hang out.
All right. It's good seeing you.
Great chatting with you. I'll talk to you again soon.